I have a pot like in that, and I have some Palo Santo as well. So I'm getting it going. We just
I
yes.
love that you have that ready
Yes, I'm
for this conversation. That's
ready to
perfect.
roll. Yes. I'm so happy to be on here with you. What a treat.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And yeah, I just want to just get into it with you because I know that a lot of people are in their feels right now,
Mhm.
whether it's celebration feels or grieving feels or um anger, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to have a conversation about like where do we go from here,
Mhm.
basically, and a
Mhm.
little bit of like, you know, meeting with you as, as an astrologer and as someone who sort of understands where we are in sort of a historical sense, right? Like
Mhm.
astrological timeline sense.
Yeah.
Just really wanting to kind of like, okay, like what are what are the planets? What is the cosmos sort of like asking us to do, right? What are
Mm.
the next steps here? That's
Mhm.
I really
Mhm.
feel that's the question that I want to answer. Like how do we step into the next level, right? Or how do we step into, you know, Pluto and Aquarius, right? Like what are the
Yeah.
tasks at hand, essentially?
Yes. When I'm leaning into this question, and when you asked me to be on this podcast, it was before the election.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what would bubble out. And so the first thing that I want to invite, one of the things that has been really helpful for me is throughout all of this, being human on planet Earth right now, can there be an you invite yourself to remember that you are a spirit having a human experience. So that has been really helpful for me to get like a bird's eye view of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then on top of that is an overlay of the vibration of the planets which are living.
Mm-hmm.
And the overlay, the scrim, like I'm an opera singer too, so sometimes if you happen to be on stage or you've seen a stage and then it looks like one thing, there's like a curtain in front and you're like, oh, look at that beautiful scenery of that forest. And then they turn on the lighting behind the
Yes.
scrim and you can see more depth and perceive more about what's happening. I feel like we can that we can invite ourselves to say, okay, we see this scrim right now. So I can very consciously say, I'm going to look through the scrim. I'm going to see the scrim of the election results. I'm going to see the scrim of what it's like to be in the United States right now, which is where I believe you and I both are living. And some
Mm-hmm.
of your listeners might be in other parts of the world. However,
Yeah.
one of the things that is really going to become apparent in the next 20 years is the fact that Aquarian energy, which is where the planet of death and transformation, death and transformation, death and transformation is landing for the next 20 years as of November 19th,
Mm-hmm.
is Aquarius is I am completely into I know I begin to realize and have consciousness about that we are all connected. I
Okay.
am leaning I love Aquarian energy. I love it. It's where my north node is. So the north node is where you what you are here to master. So
Yes.
an Aquarian energy, I want to invite everyone to remember that as when the planet Uranus was discovered, that became the ruling planet of Aquarius. So Aquarian energy answers is infused with the energy of Uranus, and Uranus follows no rules. Uranus does
Mm.
there's you can't even think of a box into which to put Uranus because there is no box.
Yeah.
So we are all being invited collective. I mean, I'm very excited and I know that I tend to be Pollyanna-ishly delighted at being incarnate, except when I go into a really, really deep black hole and then I'm in the psychiatric unit. So that I embody all of those colors. So we are so we have chosen to incarnate at a time when we're stepping into this realm where Pluto, the planet, which is the golden phoenix rising out of the ashes, simultaneously as the whole land is laid to waste. Um, and with that happening, we are all being infused with the energy of lightning bolts, of awakenings, of volcanoes erupting, of immediate, instantaneous awakening. So I'm imagining what I'm witnessing is it seems like a lot of people are becoming curious about, is this entity really the boss of me? Do I actually have to answer to that? Um, and so with Pluto leaving Capricorn, where it's been for the past 16-ish years. So again, if you're the people listening, think back to about 2008, 2009-ish. What was going on for you at that time? There was probably some sort of really big life shift, either for yourself or others. For me, it looked like so Pluto left Sagittarius and moved
When was
into
this?
2000, like 2007, 2008. So about 16-ish
Oh,
years ago.
yeah.
And so yes, usually people when I say that are like, "Oh, whoa." Like for me, it was I got divorced, quit opera singing professionally, I declared bankruptcy, I left New York City, I moved back to Philadelphia. I mean, it was everything. Why my life was totally again this raised to the ground.
Yes.
We are in that sort of time shift again,
Yeah.
and. um, Now with the distance that I have, 16 years, I'm 53. I was 40, I was 39 or 38 when that happened. It's a really different perspective, like to be
Yeah.
in the crone phase of my life.
Yeah.
And it's can we the image of mycelium, did I
Yeah.
say that right?
Mycelium. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mycelium, that is very, very can um your listeners begin to hold in their mind's eye the fact that there is this interconnected web underground of the mushroom, the gorgeous plant that is the mushroom. I've never actually taken them medicinally into my body, but because I feel like I'm already sort of on mushrooms all the time. So,
Yes.
so I invite your listeners to keep in mind, oh, there's this interconnected web of energy that actually, even if I cannot possibly imagine that this person across the room and I have anything in common, actually, I would like to offer up that energetically somewhere there is a connecting thread. And I feel like in the next 20 years, that's going to become more and more evident. And it's even for me becoming clearer and more out in the open because Pluto has been dancing back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius for since March of 2023.
Oh.
Uh-huh. So there's been I've seen like for example some weather events happening and people are stepping up to say, I'm here to help you, neighbor. We might not have anything in common, and here, why don't you come over and charge your phone in my house? My house is still standing. Why don't you come and have some of my eggs? It's really happening already, this sense of, okay, I actually can use the planet of alchemy, Pluto, in a powerfully high octave by I don't know how this is going to land with you, but in your listeners, well, not you, but your listeners, it's can I also remember that at some point in some lifetime you were my child? At some point in some lifetime we were married. Can I remember that you killed me in another lifetime and I killed you? And this thread of can I in this lifetime choose to step into the higher octave of whatever our relationship is right now?
Mm-hmm.
Which is not it's not an easy task always.
Yeah.
Am I answering the question that you originally asked?
Well, what I feel like you're getting into is just having a little bit of a, I don't know, as you're speaking, what I'm feeling to is some experiences that I've had with people throughout my life where even though in this incarnation and in this earth plane, maybe the relationship isn't that great.
Mm,
Maybe it isn't even a healthy relationship,
mhm,
that there's an understanding of a spiritual task that needs to happen
mhm,
or an agreement of some kind.
mhm,
That's sort of what you're reminding me of. And I think that where I'm going in my head and is, I think that we are the task, part of the task at hand that we are sort of being called into. You sort of said it in a roundabout way when you talked about the mycelial networks, is really adopting a collective identity. And part of what is dying, right? Part of the system that is crumbling. And when I think about system, I think about a macro system of
mhm,
political systems and maybe like the electoral college, for example, like big things like that, government. But then when I think about the micro system is the systems that live inside of us, which is individualism
mhm,
and breaking down sort of the walls that we have between ourselves and other people.
mhm,
And I am in no way suggesting that you need to be friends with, you know, people who are, maybe like intentionally wanting to hurt you or don't care about you.
yes,
Definitely am not suggesting that. You get to
I
set your
agree.
boundaries. I
Mhm,
set them every day.
mhm,
Um, but about really having that understanding, even if you choose not to have connection with someone, like even if you choose like, no, 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 you're over there, I'm over here, we're good, but to still recognize them
mhm.
as part of this mycelial network,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I think that part of being a human and having, this experience is to be able to hold both of those realities. Be able to hold the
yes,
human that is like, I want to fucking kill you, or like,
yes,
you're an asshole. And then
yes.
also have this other side of like, yeah, I recognize like, yeah, we have something to learn from one another. Like you're somehow
Mm,
here to teach me something, even
mhm.
if it is just about setting boundaries. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And mm, so there's always, what I'm hearing and what you're sharing is there's always a thread of like m me when I'm not in my body, recognizing you when you're not in your body. Because when,
Yes.
okay, yes, and when we get squeezed into these our immense, infinite spirits, we have to squeeze into these little tiny human bodies. That it comes with restrictions. Like and we feel many more emotions than we're able to when we're in our spirit forms. And it's a gift of being human. Like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, I get to have these experiences, and some are pleasant and some are not. I think that also with the energy of Capricorn that we've been in for 16 years, Capricorn is related to government. It's related to top top down. Like
Yes.
there's one person in charge, and then everyone else is like the plebeians at underneath. I might have said that
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that is dying. And yes, what you said, the government, our government systems, I don't think they're going to be the same as they have been. We are also, particularly in the United States, having what's called a Pluto return. That happens once every 250 years-ish.
Mm.
And so about 250 years ago, more or less, is when the Declaration of Independence was signed.
Oh, wow.
So we are being invited now to say, do we want to continue in this way? Like that way might have played its time out, and now maybe, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were some states saying, I want to be my own like entity and like succeeding from it could look like that. It could be, and
Yeah.
again, if we, if anyone says right now with the Uranian energy so loud, if anyone says this is definitely what's going to happen, it can't possibly be what it is because the nature of Uranus is unknowable. So
Yes.
we can muse about what might be
Mhm.
coming, and we can also hold on to it lightly.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I just feel like, sometimes I have I have flashes of the future.
Mhm.
And sort of the things that I see give me a lot of like I feel very excited about it.
Me
And
too.
it's not nothing, it won't come easily,
Mm-mm.
right? It's gonna come with a fight, and it's
Mhm.
gonna like we're gonna we're gonna work for it, right? We're
Yes.
gonna work for it together. But I see kind of like, oh yes, I see us like shifting into um like smaller groups of people, like right, like maybe states separating and say
Yes.
we want to be our own thing versus being either a bigger collective. I see us moving into smaller collectives
Yes.
and moving from that individual model, even from like living in like single family homes to living in, right, on I don't know what to call it, but like, yeah, like having
Community.
multiple, yeah, on land and
Yes.
farming together, and really,
Yes.
a lot of people talk about that stuff already, so that's not a really big surprise. But um, even just the fact that like housing is getting more expensive, it's kind of forcing us in that direction anyway, right?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Um, so I feel like that's kind of like just almost like a not an inevitability, but it's just kind of like, yeah, that's what we're already moving towards. And
Yes.
yeah, I don't mind that. I like that. I feel like
Hmm.
that's healthier than what we've been doing so
Yeah.
far, right? That's a
Yeah.
part of the system where I'm just happy to have it crumble
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, let's do something different. That's not working.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, so I just feel kind of like this question you said earlier, who is the boss of me? Like,
Mm.
is this one person really the boss of me?
Right.
That's sort of what I've been writing and like musing over more recently, or since the election,
Hmm.
not necessarily since the election, but
Yeah.
but kind of like more specifically around like, yes, we put a lot of stock into into an election because there is one person chosen, and I'm just like, yeah, that doesn't really, I'm not really into that. And yes, I voted because I felt like I kind of had to put my ticket in there and kind of do
Mm.
the thing, but it's really not something I believe in
Right.
generally.
Yes. Yes.
you
Right.
know
It's a both
yeah.
and. It's a both.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
holding the both and I think is really what we were talking about earlier about being human and being a spiritual being, right?
Yes.
To be able to
Yes.
hold the both and that's where, the complexity of our relationships and all of these networks and how we're doing things and how we're moving forward is going from this, you know, bipolarity.
Mm.
You did this, or you
Yes.
did that, the bifurcation, anything that is sort of like splitting, all
Yes.
the splitting behavior, like really um softening those edges. And
Yeah.
that for me is like a little bit what unity is about, is like having just a little bit more room for people to kind of
Mm-hmm.
be who they are, and again, without it being a violation of another person,
Yes.
you know yeah.
It for me, what astrology really helps me to do that, to hold to hold the space for the fact that, okay, you have a Capricorn moon, and that comes with a certain vibration and frequency. It's like you wear glasses, you have a blue shirt on, you have a Capricorn moon, and so it's not, I take it much less personally when you do something that is rather in the vein of Capricorn moon. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. And for me, it was one of the first aha moments I had with astrology. Now, the person who was my astrologer about 16 years ago is embarrassed that she said this. However, what she said was people with charts like yours can tend to have mental illness. That was so helpful to
Wow.
release the shame that
Yes.
I had. I was like, oh my gosh, it's in my chart. Like, I didn't understand astrology. And I was like, it can feel so shame reducing. And so I want to invite also people to know that if you're getting one of the things that happens with Pluto in Aquarius, which is where we're vibrating towards, and we're like in about ten days.
Hmm.
is the fact that because Pluto can be related to trauma and Aquarius is the collective, there can be
Oh.
a collective trauma that could be bubbling up. And especially with Aquarius rules technology and the internet. So I'm
Mm.
noticing for myself when I go on social media, which I love. I love social media. I love being on it. I love connecting with people on it. That's how I've met you. Um, it also can be a way to fall into this a hole of despair. If
Yes.
and so when that starts to happen and you're noticing that you're getting caught up with the collective, I'm going to even say I mean the collective unconscious of people that all their stuff is coming
Yes.
out
The
and
despair.
yes. Oh, and you're and I imagine like remember that our nervous systems, at least so far, well, I'm going to call it, I like to say it this way, operating system. That's from Lobster Bird. Our
Hmm.
operating systems have not been designed to receive this onslaught of nonstop information.
That's right.
So with another astrology movement that's happening right now is the planet Neptune, which is Poseidon. He's the god of underwater and he can dive down into the depths and he can go to parts of the oceans that our machines have never gone because they will get squished by the pressure. And
Yeah.
he's down there and he's like, oh my gosh, look at all these mysteries and these amazing emotions. And I'm bringing up like connection to spirit that you guys don't even know you've had. And he's in his favorite sign, which is Pisces, and Pisces can be a lot of water. So think tsunami, think overwhelm, think I've heard people saying, I'm really overwhelmed, I'm really overwhelmed, I'm really overwhelmed, a drowning sensation. So if that, I want to offer up that I'm not surprised if people are feeling that. And what can you do to maybe put a pause, maybe if the overwhelm is coming from the onslaught of information? Okay, like today, what I did, I was doing that. I got caught into the social media hole for like an hour and a half, and I was like, okay, Natalie, what is the next right thing for you to do to get out of this? So I got up and went to the spring where they bring spring water, and I fit this Neptune in Pisces and filled my bottles of water, and I did some physical labor, and that really broke the spell because
Yeah.
Neptune in Pisces can also be an enchantment. You're
Mm.
under a magic spell. It's ether, it's steam, it's mysterious, and it's also this incredible moment that we're having that we won't have unless some of us live to be like 170, 180. Um, we won't have this experience again of the veil being so thin between what we can see and what we can't see. So if
Yeah.
you're someone who has not before been interested in talking to whatever is loud for you in terms of your spirit team, now would be you'd be very supported right now to start doing, even if it's just looking around and saying, thank you. Like most of us can only see, hear, feel, and experience 4% of what is actually happening around us.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. So it's really, I know that for me, my prayer has been lately, and I'm someone who thought the idea of God was bullshit until like 15 years ago, and I started to be slightly open. It's, I command all of my archangels, my ascended masters, my spirit, the highest iteration of my spirit team, and my most well-heeled ancestors to gather around me right now. And they're like, phew, here they are. And I give thanks to them all that my life is unfurling exactly as it is meant to for the highest, purest iteration of my most abundant, most divine, and most benevolent timeline. So it's really, if you're listening to this, how specific can you get? And as I've been doing that particular prayer, I have become open to beginning to take responsibility for financial abundance in my life, which I have never done before. And I
Hmm.
feel very supported. And that's another way that I've ended up, connecting with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I feel like there's a real opportunity also for people to know that mm, in terms of financial abundance, which that energy, there's a real, like a changing of the guard that's happening now.
Hmm.
and astrologically, and also because Capricorn energy is like the old ways. It's sticking to like this is how it should be done and we're
Yes.
supposed to, and we get to let go now of the should, supposed tos, have tos and musts, and we get to lean into the what would it be like to can like for me I became have become curious about crypto, and it's mostly because I keep hearing astrologically that we with Pluto moving into Aquarius, and Aquarius is the internet, Aquarius is technology, and Pluto is power, and the energy of wealth has been connected to feeling powerful.
Hmm.
It's now that energy is going to, I believe in the next 20 years, going to be much more digitalized and much more like online. It's not necessarily just crypto. It's like I don't know how much we're going to be having actual physical cash in our hands.
Hmm.
So I was like, I'm going to learn about crypto, and I'm studying again with someone that I've met in the realms in it's called the
Yeah.
Wealthy Woman's Vault with
Yeah.
Katya.
Yeah.
Um, and so I feel really excited about that. Like there's so much possibility that we haven't had at our fingertips before.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel I like the question of what would it be like to, and like creating from that place,
Mhm,
right? Versus, often versus creating from what we know.
mhm,
And when I think about our individual patterns, um,
mhm,
I think about we often create in our relationships, we create relationship patterns that are based on our patterning in our relationship with our parents, or right, based on some sort of trauma protection, trauma protection navigation system or whatever. And
mhm,
we often create from this is like this feels safe, or I know this, right? Because that's what the nervous system is interested in doing. It's interested in predictability, safety, security, keeping you alive.
mhm,
And but when we ask the question, what would it be like to, then we can imagine, then we can dream,
mhm,
right? Then we can be in the space of possibility. And when you think about manifestational arts, you think about like the infinite realm of possibilities, right?
mhm.
Like this quantum, the quantum field of possibility,
Oh
right? And
yeah.
really thinking beyond what you know, imagining and dreaming beyond what you know. And for that, you do have to have a connection, a thread to spirit, your guides, um, and just believe in yourself, as trite as that sounds,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
to really have this like trust in ideas that come and be like, that is something I've never seen before, and I'm going to go for it. I'm not going to wait till somebody else creates it so that I feel like, oh, now I have permission to do it. But really giving yourself permission to move forward on things that you've never seen before,
Mhm.
you've never, like, it just hasn't been done,
Right.
and to really move from that place,
Yes.
like, and that's where the leadership comes in again, of like, leaders go first.
Yes.
And right, and the
Yes.
people who are like the sensitive, creative, spiritual folks who tend to be more on the shy side, or who tend to be more like, maybe have some insecurities around trusting themselves, and have these blockages around confidence, maybe
Mm.
that's what we've been sort of like working on
Mhm.
hardcore over the last couple of years, to
Mm.
be able to then, yes, say yes to ourselves when we
Yeah.
have those ideas, when we have those nudges, those intuitive, like, yes, do this.
Mm. I love that. I was thinking today actually about the fact that people might uh be drawn to like let's say, oh, I love listening to Isha because she knows what she's doing and she's an expert. And um I'm externalizing that gold that I actually have inside myself.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
can I remember that I have the gold as well?
Yeah,
And how
exactly.
do I find that? And astrology, again, when I'm working with clients, I get to remind, like, oh my gosh, you're so supported by this, by Venus in this house for you. Oh my goodness, do you know that? Did you know this about yourself? No. Okay, well, let me remind you that you can talk to the planets and you can go out there and your very frequency vibrates such and such, and you don't even have to try. Simply by existing, you are
Yeah,
this. And it can feel really, really helpful to people to know that, and they can start to identify, oh, look at all that gold that I actually have inside.
yeah,
So I love what you said about that, that it's like really inviting in the past few years people to recognize that diamond inside of them that has
yeah,
been forged because the walls have been closing in on the coal for so many years, and that's how the diamond is created.
exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. Each one of us has like, I was just thinking about this yesterday. Like,
mm,
I have a unique perspective as sort of a gender fluid, uh, even culturally fluid person who didn't grow
mhm,
up in the mainland United States,
mm,
who grew up with a white mother and a brown father who was deeply colonized.
mm.
Like all of those experiences, like just the ones that I named, are so profound already, informing my perspective on a particular issue, right? Let
Yes.
alone, spending being married 15 years with somebody who was mentally ill and who didn't know it and I didn't know it, right? And how that all sort of resulted and how that shaped my experience of relationships and then having children and getting sick. And all of those experiences make up this really like once in a lifetime drop of humanity, and
Yes.
that's sort of what we're like, yes, talk
Mm,
about that. Share that. Share like
mm,
whatever thing is happening, like talk about your thing
mhm.
from that perspective of those experiences because that is your wisdom. That is not like you can't replicate that
Yeah.
because nobody else lived those experiences except you. And everybody experiences or perceives their experiences in a particular way.
Mhm.
So it's like that. I was thinking about it yesterday of just like, yeah, like we often think, "Oh, what's the right thing to say? And or how do I express this? Just your way." Like again, my last podcast episode was about that,
Mm.
but it just came back to me again of just like, yeah, I get to share this because this is my perspective on it. This is how I see it, and I'm giving myself permission to
Yeah.
show up this way because
Yes.
that's just how I see it. Period. Like no fucks given, no permission needed. You know, um, yeah,
And
that's
then
just
how
really.
is it has it been a journey for you to become comfortable with the fact that some people may be very repelled by what you say?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's trusting my voice is
Mm.
huge. I feel like the self-trust piece, I talk about it so much because it's been like my Achilles heel.
Mm.
Really like trusting that
Mhm.
uniqueness about me or not assuming that other people know this already, right? That
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I really understand. Like, wait, oh wait, you don't actually know what I'm talking about. You've never heard of this. Let me tell you, like, as if, you're brand new, you're in nursery school. Not to be uh
condescending
not
or
condescending.
yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, because this
Let me
is
break it
my
down.
right, because I'm an expert at this. Like
Yeah.
so to really lean into that as well, I'm hearing that in what you're sharing, and that kind of, because it's my experience in through the veil of my experience in this lifetime, no one else has this.
Yes,
No,
and we make it unspecial because we experienced it and we just kind of assume that like some other people experienced it too, and maybe they did, but when we talk about it, right, that's when we ping into the collective, right, so to speak.
yes.
Yeah.
And then your people can hear your signal and find you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Exactly.
I'm trying to invite myself to lean into that more, and not try because one of my survival skills is to be extremely agreeable and pleasing to everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
And it doesn't work anymore.
yeah. And I think that's so many of us, right? Especially since we all want to be loved and cared for and belong, right? Certainly.
Mhm.
And so it makes sense that we all want to, you know, do right by others. Um, but yeah, like having people be mad at me is one of like my, like I can feel my just system freak out. Totally it loses its shit.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I eventually calm down, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's provokes a really big reaction in me. Like have somebody
Mm.
being mad at me, I'm just like somebody I care about, obviously.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a pretty, and even somebody that I don't really care about, I actually feel that too, you
Me
know?
too. Me too.
Yeah.
Like it happened today. I was in a 12-step meeting and you're supposed to have just your first name on your Zoom. And
Yeah.
I started sharing and I hadn't changed Natalie Levin astrology and I noted I was like and I felt my armpits started sweating. I felt like prickly all over and I used it as a moment to narrate what it was like to be in my skin. I said, "Oh my gosh, you guys, I didn't change my name and having a big shame response, and I'm going to narrate this in here so that I bring it into the light and the air, and and invite myself to remember that a big emotion is not necessarily an emergency." So it was really a helpful in the moment
Yeah.
practice. Like I made a
Yeah.
mistake and I can bear it.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm holding this gently.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. So I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I think that can Can people, I want to also allow in the fact that the next 2 years are really big, enormous astrological shifts. They're continuing. So, what I've been inviting people to uh, keep in mind is can you stay soft and supple with your expectations about how things are supposed to go?
Mm.
Can you also, I've been really getting skillful at saying, I need help. I need help. And can and when I say that, I am very, very the abundance of help that comes is wow. Like people I think a lot of people really want to help and be of service and
Mhm.
they want to know how. So when I'm able to be very specific, people are like, "Yes, may I do this for you?" And I'm like, "Yes, you can help me to install the smoke alarms in the house that we're trying to sell." Like, "Yes, thank you." It's very concrete sometimes, or sometimes it's, "Would you please send me prayers?" And so it can be um again, as we're moving into this really connected energy, and it not only is Pluto moving into Aquarius for the next 20 years, but we're also moving from the age of Pisces, which was like about a 2,000-year cycle, into the age of Aquarius, which is the next sort of 2,000 years.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
really?
it's really,
2000. I didn't
yes.
realize that.
It's a really long cycle. So the shift is from the Piscean energy can be I'm a loner. I want to just be on a mountaintop and achieve enlightenment and not actually come and share it with anyone. I'm really happy by myself. And now, as we move into the age of Aquarius, it's, oh, you guys, listen, this is what I just discovered. Would you like to come try it with me? So that we get to step into that as well. And I really enjoy people. I do like to have alone time and I enjoy people very much. And so because of that, I want to also honor that people might be listening who are would identify as quite introverted and that this might not sound particularly exciting to them, the connectivity piece. And I understand that and if you I believe you chose to incarnate at this time knowing that you would get to experience Pluto in Aquarius and the age of Aquarius. So maybe this is an interesting growth edge for you to expand your energetic container to be able to hold your own discomfort and do it anyway. The do it meaning, hi, I'm going to say hello to you in the store. Like,
Yeah.
people talk to me all the time in the stores they're like, just want to say hello to me. And I'm like, hello. Or I'll just be like, I love the sh green shirt you're wearing. Like, why keep that inside? And people are like, what? Thank you. Like, you know, there's so many opportunities to choose the highest octave of a vibration instead of me going into the store and being like, oh, my armpits actually are very strongly smelling right now. And like being like, no one wants to come near me. My armpits are smelling. And like, instead, I'm like, hello, everybody. Like spreading the armpits, saying, like, just people actually are want to say hello.
Yes.
It's
Yes, I think that
really heartening.
when you sort of like tap the crusty exterior of most people,
Totally. Yes.
they want to
Yes.
connect. And I think,
Mm,
when I was in my somatics program, like I feel like that is the lesson that we learned over and over and over again, that underneath all of the defense patterns that we have,
mhm.
we don't really actually want them to work.
Yes.
Like, yes, we
Yes.
want them to work, but then we really kind of don't,
Yeah.
right? What we really want is connection, and we're just afraid of
Yeah.
getting rejected, or,
Yeah.
like getting missed, or whatever it happens to be, right? Like being abandoned. And so, yeah, so we have them all up, but really we want the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like when we know that going, go from the outset, we just make things a lot nicer for ourselves, right?
Mm,
We just,
hmm.
yeah,
It
yeah,
reminds me of Pema Chodron, the Tibetan Buddhist nun, monk, nun. She said one of the things she said was like she was little and she was having a really hard time and like an elder walked by her and said, "Little girl, don't let the world harden your heart." And that always is ringing through because it is not particularly easy to be human right now on this
yeah,
planet.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And can I still allow my heart to stay soft?
yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes just for today, I'm not able to do that.
Right. No, Natalie, that so resonates with me. I was thinking about that the other day as I was scrolling through. I took a little social media hiatus prior to
Mhm,
the election, and then came back
mhm,
on a couple days ago.
mhm.
And I was feeling that because as I was scrolling, I could feel myself hardening. And I was
Yeah.
like, nope, not gonna do it.
Yes.
And I was reminded of when, my ex-husband was coming at me in very aggressive ways, and I would just feel this like tremendous rage and hatred, and I would
Mhm,
have to transmute that over and over and over again
mhm,
to come back to this place of love, and to come
mhm.
back to the place where I could still love him, because
Yeah.
that was the truth. Yes, I was
Yeah.
angry. That was also a truth. But that I had to come sort of like dig into the deeper layers of like, yes, I really do love you. And you need to stay the fuck away from me, but I do love you.
Mhm.
And because I needed to preserve my integrity, and my integrity was that love,
Mm, mhm.
right? And so
Yes.
I think that that is a huge spiritual task right now,
Mhm.
in sort of an environment where we are being I want to say that I want to use the word incentivized to divide,
Totally.
right? That we have
Yes.
to kind of constantly like return to self, return to integrity, and soften.
Mm,
Um yeah, and soften into that piece around the neighbor you talked about
yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
About like, yeah, we're not the same, but there is a thread here between you and me.
Yes.
I can't just fucking cut you off,
No.
you know?
I'll be cutting off a part of myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I say that, being clear that, there's people that I've separated from because I'm just like, yeah, no. And I still love them. And I
Yeah.
love them from a very distant distance.
Yes, me too.
And I can still feel my love for them.
Yes.
I feel like that's really important to say, because it's like, yes, like, there's a lot of discussion right now, and like, I'm um unfriending people on social media. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, unfriend. Go ahead and unfriend. You don't have to like
Yes.
be in connection with people that are
No.
not interested in your human rights or not,
Hmm.
like you don't
Yes.
have to stay connected with them. You can still love them and disconnect,
Yes.
right? And I think that's sort of like what people are like wrangling with right now is this permission to kind of do kind of both, to like
Yeah.
again live in those both those places.
Yeah, it reminds me of the idea that I can have a boundary and block you everywhere and still wish you well.
Yeah,
So I have being in recovery from addiction, there are many
right.
beings that I cannot be in contact with.
Yeah,
It would be dangerous for me.
yeah, I believe you.
So, and I know that I wish them well. I wish them healing. It might not happen in this lifetime. And
Hmm.
that's not my, and I don't have to, I'm not in charge of them. That's also helpful to remember. Like, with this time, with the subject of power being loud, it can come up for people like either a feeling of victimhood or being the bully, with Pluto being really loud right now.
Yeah,
So I try to notice for myself, where am I falling into feeling victimized? Where am I bullying or like proselytizing to others because I think that I know exactly what's right for them?
yeah.
And can I,
Guilty.
yeah, right, I know, same. So like that something that's helpful for me with that is using the acronym WAIT. Why am I talking? That has been, I use it like, I'm like, even with my 9-year-old, wait, just be in silence, Natalie. And also pause, postpone action until serenity emerges.
Wow.
It's really good. It's really helpful. Like, okay, if I am feeling very hot and there's crackling energy moving through my whole being and my limbic system, this is not the time perhaps for me to have this conversation. Can I allow there to be, again, a pause, a sacred pause, postpone action
Yeah.
until serenity emerges?
Yeah, that has been like, thank you for putting it in such a lovely acronym because you've just described my entire strategy of how I maintain relationships.
Oh, yes, yes. I mean,
Because I run pretty hot.
mhm.
Like I just kind of flare up and I'm like, I
Mhm.
need to leave.
You have to give yourself a quiet time.
Give me 24 hours. I'll be back.
Yes, yes. That can be so helpful and so um releasing of unintentional damage that or it might be intentional, but damage that afterwards I'm like, oh, I didn't mean to do that in this
Yeah,
relationship. If I
right.
had waited, that might have been helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And what do you say, Natalie, in terms of like, you mentioned crypto,
Hmm.
you mentioned digitalization of
Hmm.
currency,
Hmm.
or maybe you hinted at it.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people say that that it's dangerous for currency to be digitalized because, um, then when we do have like powerful entities,
Yeah.
they can sort of giveth and taketh away, so
Yeah,
to
that's
speak,
true.
right? They can freeze assets or this and that, right? Um, so I have a sort of
Mm.
curiosity around that a little bit.
Okay, yes, yes. So one of the things, another thing about not crypto, Aquarius energy is it is decentralized.
Mm,
So I don't know what
mm.
that looks like. It can be, first of all, there is crypto that is decentralized. It is
Yes.
not regulated by the government. That is what
Yeah.
I'm involved in.
Yeah.
There's also this idea, like if I've been doing trades with some clients, like if you'll come over and do body work for me, and then I would love to work with you for 75 minutes, and there's someone else like, yeah, so we're doing that. That can be more decentralized. It's not having to involve a third party.
Right, like alternative economies.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And again, I love that because Aquarius energy is, for me, like the weirdest energy of the zodiac. So that would fall, alternative economies would fall into that. And I'm saying this with love. I love it. Like I'm the most attracted to the strangest person, the strangest looking person in the room, um, which usually is me. But like I would, but I'm like, oh, my people. Like I go and find them. And so I want to, yeah. Can if so, so I know that there are a lot of people who are financially having a lot of challenge right now. Can what creative solutions could bubble up around like, hey, how about I come over and watch your child for 2 hours and then in exchange you help me with my accounting. Like can it be there this time of being out of the challenge of Pluto doing his work of destruction comes and it can come an incredible font of creative libido. So maybe the artwork becomes my life being I'm going to use my amazing all the things that I've learned to help other people that I don't even know that I know. Like I'm here to help if someone's like, can you walk me through opening a decentralized wallet in
Yeah.
crypto? Yes, and then let's do an energy exchange around that. Like can you help me to like do something on social media? I don't know. It can be get creative if you can. And I also know that for people who are feeling, some people might be feeling really, really tired right now because
Yeah.
The Plutonian energy it can feel like it's never going to end, and we're all collectively in a Pluto transit right now.
Mhm.
So, if you're able to rest more, I would give so many blessings to that. Like, it's okay to pause and breathe and sleep, and being on social media in your bed is not actually rest. Just FYI.
FYI, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Is that helpful? Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I think just in terms of like I think you answered the question in terms of like what a like the decentralization piece around
Hmm.
like we're gonna find alternatives. And again, I say that
Yes.
we are going to like it's coming out in a definitive way. I obviously don't know that,
Right.
but just from my own intuition and from, the astrological perspective, like, yeah, like we are creating alternative economies, and maybe there's
Yeah.
lots of different ways to do that, not just exchanges, but
Yeah.
there's lots of different ways, and we're going to create them. We're just going
Yes.
to start creating them and be
Yes.
inventive.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that feels really good. Anybody who's listening, I suggest also to read Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein.
Mm,
That is a book that I have not yet gotten through all of the way, but has
mm.
really informed so much of this, of my vision of the
Yeah.
future, and like
Yeah.
even like the um my minimalism, how I
Hmm.
treat the things that I purchase, and how I buy, and how I treat the things that I buy,
Yeah.
all of that. It's really affect, and how like even how I share the things that I buy, like how I use them, and that's been a big deal for me. So yeah.
Mm,
Do you have
hmm.
any last words around like how people can sort of welcome or usher in this new era in terms of maybe their business, or um, just their relationship with money or economics in general?
Well, what I want to invite you to know is that I would expect things to be a little bumpy in the next few years in terms of and volatility in I don't even know what this means, but volatility in the markets because it's just again with Pluto answering to Uranus, it can be unpredictable. However, what what is the things in which you're very supported are doing the things that you would never have thought you would have done. Like if you're someone who feels really scared to be on camera for social media, now would be the time for you to be very supported to get up and do it. A
Mhm.
picture that you have the planet that is the maverick that follows no rules. Like I was just like dancing around with you. He like took my scarf off. He's like dun 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 dun, and he's like, "Come on, let's get up there. Let's just be you. Not just. I'm gonna take the word just out. Be you. Trust that your signal, Uranus is so unique. Your unique signal that makes you you is going to draw the people to you. I started my YouTube channel with one subscriber, one, and I was like, okay, someone's listening to me. And now I have over 1,200. It's
Wow,
really slow
amazing.
and
Yeah.
gentle, and or it's not slow. Again, Uranus can be an overnight boom.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have a bunch of people following you, or you come up with something that no one has thought of before, and they're like, "I really need that." Yes, you're the invitation to be completely and utterly yourself without trying to fit into anyone's box or system or structure is another
Mm.
part of how supported you are in with all of the Aquarian energy that we're dancing into. There's no one if something is status quo, that's dying away and it's really okay, what if you have been thinking, I really want to shave my head, now's the time to do it.
I
Like,
have been thinking about that.
oh my gosh. Okay, that must be your guides and angels. Yes, I mean I have done it. It's so freeing. It is so
Yeah, I
freeing.
did it a long time ago
Oh,
after
did
I
you?
dyed my hair red and it turned out a disaster. And I was
Oh no.
like, it just needs to leave now.
Yeah.
But I definitely thinking of doing like some sort of like mohawk with the curls on
Yes.
top, something. I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes. I mean,
Something
now
changing it up.
keep in mind how supported you are, listeners in general, with eh, Uranus is the planet of freedom.
Yeah. Yes.
That,
Thank you. That's
yes,
it.
that's it.
Freedom.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
that,
that's exactly. That's like let's end here because that
okay.
it really is like whatever like liberatory. Whatever for you feels
Mm,
liberatory,
hmm
that's what you need to do,
I love it.
right? Whether it's
Yes.
start a business, whether it is sell a business,
Yes.
whether, right? Like whatever your version of that is, and at any
Yes.
given moment or at any point in time, that's what that's what you say yes to is whatever
Mm-hmm.
feels most liberated and
Beautiful.
freeing.
I love it.
Yes. Ooh.
Oh wow, it's so easy to talk to you. I feel
Ah.
like we meet on so many different levels. It's really great. What a
Yeah,
treat. This is
I
our first
love
time
this.
talking live, everybody, so it's really
Yeah, really, we've just been messaging each other and
hmm
not even for very long. So
hmm
this is a huge treat. And I hope
hmm
that, you know, listening, you enjoyed it. And there'll be definitely more to come,
hmm
um more deep talks and sort of like the the kind of information that just gets missed with most, I think, most channels of information out there is like the nuance, the complexity, right? The deeper pieces here. So thank you, Natalie.
My pleasure.
Yeah.